I'm Pastor Hutch. Let us pray. Heavenly Father, Creator of all things, Father, we come before you today in humility and faith. Father, we thank you for all that you have given us and the many blessings in our lives. We ask for your guidance and strength, Lord. Show us the way and fill us with courage and wisdom. Help us to remember your love and grace and to be faithful in our service to you. Give us the patience and understanding to face life challenges with grace. And we ask these things through your Son, Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you, Hutch.
Thank you much. Now we're going to go to presentations and proclamations with his recommendations for agenda changes. Thomas.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm going to wait for just 1 second. Ethan is on his way in here. He's going to get my computer connected to the screen so that you guys can watch the PowerPoint that I'm so lovingly prepared for you tonight.
Okay.
Plug it in, that works.
Thank you, Ethan. Good evening, Mayor, members of council. My name, for those of you in the audience that may not know me, is Thomas Gush. I am the city attorney, and that's not my PowerPoint. Give me 1 second. There we go. That should get us where we need to go. Again, my name is Thomas Gush. I'm the relatively new city attorney. I know y'all all know who I am, but the people in the audience behind us and the people watching at home may not know who I am. So if you'll indulge me for just a second, I'd like to introduce myself to them so that they know that when I make some recommendations to you, it's coming from a position of expertise. I've been a local government attorney for over 20 years. I've represented cities specifically for over 14 as city attorney, as well as other types of local governmental entities. I am the author of several works, most notably for tonight's purpose, this book called Go Home Early, which is a practical guide to streamlining meetings. It is a way to make your meetings run more smoothly so that you can get your business done and go home early, okay? And I'm also a certified educator. I actually carry a TEA certification, but on top of that, I train cities and city councils on all sorts of legal topics. In fact, this fall at TML's annual conference in Houston, I'll be doing 2 presentations, one of which is on Robert's Rules of Orders, basically how to run meetings and how to be efficient in the operation of government. And so that's what I like to do. It's what I focus on. A lot of my practice is practical solutions to your everyday problems. I've been city attorney here for what, 2.5 months now, and in that time I've been watching y'all's meetings, our meetings, and there have been several things that I've noticed that we could be doing better to streamline our meetings and get out a little bit earlier. And so tonight I'm bringing to you 4 recommendations of things that I would like to see us doing differently as a way to streamline our meetings. The first is that I think items in our agenda should be grouped by the process that they're being used in order to help us organize our business more efficiently. I'd like to see us use more clear descriptions on our agendas, and I'll circle back to each of these in detail to explain what I mean. I'd like to implement best practices for citizen communication, And I'd like to see us switch to action minutes, which is what Robert's Rules of Order actually describes, since you guys have adopted Robert's Rules as your procedural rules. Okay, so let me walk through each of those one by one. The first thing that I'm recommending is that we group our items by the process that we're using. This has to do with reorganizing the agenda. The graphic there, I know it's too small to read. Don't even bother trying. I'll blow it up in a second. But that's the agenda from the May 20th meeting. And I want to zoom in on something that was on page 3 of that agenda. Item 8 and 9 on that agenda had 4 items. 8.1 was the monthly municipal court report. 8.2 was the monthly planning and zoning report. 9.1 was the 7-week program for the use of the aquatic center, and then 9.2 was the community enrichment report. 3 out of the 4 of those items council didn't even talk about. You skipped right over them because they were reports that had been submitted to you in writing. But sitting here at the dais following along in the agenda, I was constantly bouncing back and forth between the conversation that was going on in front of me and the agenda that was in front of me, trying to figure out, okay, what's coming up next? Are we skipping the next item or are we taking it up? And if I have 20 years experience doing this and I'm having a hard time doing both, I promise you the members of the audience are having a hard time following along what we're doing in our meetings. And so there is a better way to do that. I actually have a model agenda in my book, and I actually put it in front of you guys. And it actually lays out a little bit more organized method for how to just cluster things together, just by putting all the reports together under a heading that says reports. We'll tell people we're dealing with that now, and only later when we get to the action items, when will we take up that aquatic center. Just reorganizing your agenda in that way will make it significantly clearer. Now, this is what it would look like on the model agenda. I printed out a copy of the model agenda. It's on y'all's dais in front of you underneath the printouts for this presentation. What I did is I took tonight's meeting agenda and I just rearranged it in the way that the model agenda suggests. And so it'll give you a way of kind of looking at what your agendas could look like going forward if you choose to do this. And if you look real closely at that, in the staff report section, you see all of the staff reports are just clustered together right there. And I even have them broken down by, some of them will be delivered at the podium in person tonight, and some of them are only submitted in writing, so that you and the members of the public know what we're going to be talking about tonight during the meeting. Okay? So that's recommendation number 1, is just reorganizing the agenda to cluster items together. But if you're going to do that, I also strongly recommend that you add descriptions to each of those sections. Because here in the sample agenda that we were looking at before, we're bouncing back and forth, true, but there's no description of what we're going to do on those items either. What I've seen a lot of agendas do, and what the model agenda does, is to say item 5, staff reports, and give a narrative description of what's going to happen at that point in the meeting. That way, members of the public who are sitting here know that those items are just reports. We're not expecting any action on those items. You're not going to be voting on them. But if a member of the council wants to vote on something, you absolutely can convert it to an agenda item, an action item, and move forward with it that way. That way the public knows what we're doing up here. And again, on the sample agenda, the model agenda that I prepared for you, you see that description at the beginning. And again, a description that says, these reports are submitted in writing and we're not expecting any action. I think that makes it clearer to the public what you're attempting to accomplish in your meeting. And quite frankly, when you get to that section of the agenda, you're going to skip right over it and move on. And everybody's going to be able to follow along with you. The third recommendation that I have is to improve your citizen communications section by implementing best practices. There was a change in the legislature about 3 years ago that requires certain citizen communication to be allowed during our meetings. And since that time, every city that I have worked with has adopted these best practices that I'm about to describe. And so I'm recommending that now the city of Aransas Pass take this recommendation and make these changes as well. And it's really 3 things. The first is to move the citizen communication section from the end of the meeting to the beginning of the meeting. The legislation itself said, let me focus in on just the key language here, that citizens must be allowed to speak on every item on your agenda, every item that you're going to take action on, before or during your consideration of that item. Before or during. And so what every city across the state is changing to is to move your public comments to the beginning of the meeting. That way the public gets to comment before any item on your agenda. Mayor, that would mean you would not have to ask on every item, does anybody in the public want to talk about this item? Does anybody want to talk about this item? And it eliminates the interruptions that happen during the middle of the meeting. Let's allow the public to give their say right at the beginning of the meeting, and then we can move into the council's consideration of those items without being interrupted throughout the meeting. All right? Here again, on the model agenda, you can see where that would get placed. You have the call to order, which is the quorum call, the invocation, the pledge of allegiance, the welcome of citizens, and then immediately you move into ceremonial announcements by council members and citizen communication. So it happens right at the beginning of the meeting. Secondly, I recommend that we start using comment cards. Comment cards are just a way for citizens to sign up for citizen communication. I adapted one that I saw in another city for the slide here, just so the public could see what I'm talking about. And it's just a sign up. It's give me your name, the date of this meeting, the topic you want to talk about, and a phone number so that we can follow up with you in case you have a question that we can't answer during the meeting. All right? This gives an opportunity for, let me back up a second. The way the comment card is used is that they get put at the door, and anybody who comes in and wants to speak during public communication, they fill out that card. They give them to the city secretary before the meeting starts. She gives them to the mayor, and then the mayor is able to call up people one by one, usually in the order that they submitted those cards. And that way it's a controlled process. Just a couple of meetings ago, you remember there was a member of the public who came, I don't remember who he was sitting on this side of the room, and he actually asked from the audience, is there an order that we speak in, or do we just stand up? That's because, that was you. Right, because you've seen other cities are already doing this, right? It's a more organized way for us to present this material, right? It also allows, by the way, for the mayor to say, look, there's 3 people who want to speak on this one topic. Let's have them all speak back to back to back so we get this one topic all at the same time. We can kind of organize the process a little bit, all right? And so that's what comment cards are. The city secretary, the interim city secretary, has prepared something that looks a little bit different than this that she's planning on implementing, and there's a sample at y'all's desk as well. All right? Ms. Scruggs, was that a question you were leaning forward anxiously?
No. I was just looking at it, yeah.
Okay, great. Third improvement to public communication is to add a time clock. The way we've been timing people on their 3 minutes has been the city secretary sits there with her cell phone next to the microphone, and when it goes off, we get to hear it through the speakers. That's difficult for a speaker here at the podium to know when their time is up, all right? And so it's my recommendation, and staff has begun to implement it already, that we put a time clock here on the dais, and that it will be a countdown starting at 3 minutes when the person starts talking, and that way they know they've gotten their full 3 minutes. You've seen some speakers here at the podium say, oh, make sure I get my full 3 minutes, or make sure you put time back on the clock, or whatever, right? We're going to start it at 3 minutes. It's going to count down. Everybody gets 3 minutes, all right? That way, the person at the podium knows how much time they have left. The people watching from home on the cameras in the room get to see that we're being fair to everybody, all right? And so those are the 3 improvements to public comment. The fourth recommendation that I have, yes, Mr. Haskins, go ahead.
Can I ask you, you're talking about these comment cards for the minutes of the meeting. Does that include, or is that going to include people that want to talk about something different than the minutes, or is that not going to be allowed?
The agenda.
Thank you. That's a great question. Let me back up a second. I'm going to go back to this, which is the statute that says citizens are allowed to talk on any agenda item before or during the body's consideration of that item. When we post public comment, The description of it, if you read here at number 3, says citizen communication. At this time, the public is invited to address city council and speak on any matter, not specifically listed for public hearing. All right, we'll talk about that in a second. But to answer your question, public comment is their opportunity to speak on anything, whether it's on the agenda or whether it's not on the agenda. All right, we want all of those comments to come together right then. Does that answer your question?
That answers it, yes, sir,
Okay.
thank you.
The one exception to that listed there is public hearings, because there may be times, like we have a zoning change and we need to have specifically a public hearing. We want all of those comments to be clustered there. So we would say, if you're here to talk about that specific public hearing, let's have the comment at that time. But that doesn't preclude that person from standing up during public comment and talking about another topic. If they want to talk about both their topic as well as the public hearing, they're welcome to speak both times.
Gotcha.
All right. All right, the last item, the last recommendation that I have for you is action minutes. Action minutes, what Robert's Rules says should be in your minutes is a record of the actions taken at the meeting. That's what we call action minutes, right? And so if there's a motion made, who made the motion, who seconded the motion, what was the vote count when it passed? That's what action minutes look like. This is what your minutes look like. I pulled this from, I think, the May 7th agenda, I'm not sure. But that's 5-6 paragraphs of narrative describing what was said during the meeting. You can imagine it takes the city secretary's office a long time to prepare minutes that look like this, because they've got to go back to the video and they've got to make sure that they capture everything that was said. It takes a long time, and it means your minutes don't get approved very quickly. Action minutes are much easier. The last paragraph here is what action minutes would look like. It reads, a motion was made by Councilmember Abrego to nominate herself to the Budget Review Committee for the 2024-25 fiscal year, seconded by Mayor Gomez. The motion passed with the following vote. And that's it. That's all that's required by Robert's Rules. The reason that cities have historically used these narrative minutes is to give more context to what that action was. And that's a great thing. But today, if I want to know what was said in the meeting, I'm not going to read the narrative. I'm going to go watch the video. The video is going to be more accurate. It's going to show exactly what was said. It's going to show tone of voice and demeanor and all those other things as well. And so technology has moved beyond this kind of narrative minutes. And since Robert's Rules says you only need action minutes, I recommend we start following the rules you've already adopted and just have action minutes. That's it. That's my 4 recommendations. Are there any questions from council members about any of those recommendations?
I like it.
And I guess another thing, like we talked about, since we have all this printed at the door, that also helps streamline if all of this didn't have to be read.
Absolutely. You know, one of my cities doesn't read the items on the agenda at all. The mayor says item C2. We all know what item C2 is because it's in front of us. We all know what we're voting on. Robert's Rules says that the presiding officer needs to read it out loud, because Robert's Rules is written for organizations the size of the U.S. House of Representatives, right? 400 people in the audience, and we need to make sure they all heard it. But for small boards like this city council, there's an exception that says you don't have to follow all of those rules precisely. As long as everyone knows what we're voting on and what we're considering, we don't have to read every line that's on the agenda. And so you can streamline the meeting a whole lot by just simply saying, all right, item C2 is the public hearing from the Planning and Zoning Commission, and just move on. As long as everybody knows what we're talking about, that's what matters. Okay? If there are no questions, comments, or concerns about this, the city secretary and I are going to roll this out for the next city council meeting. Your agenda will look a lot different. It'll look much more like the model that I put in front of you there. If there are any questions along the way, you guys know how to get a hold of me. You can reach out to me by email or by phone, and we can talk about how that's going to look. When your agenda comes out before the next meeting and you're reviewing it to get ready for the meeting, that's when you're going to have questions, okay? So pick up the phone and call either Candace or myself, and we'll be happy to walk you through why it looks different and how we're going to handle it when we get to the meeting. Thank you, Mayor, members of the council.
Thank you.
Thanks for your time on that.
May I speak? Carol Salinas Aranza's passing a frequent citizen commenter. So many of Mr. Goosh's ideas are great, but sometimes I don't know what I want to talk about until I come in and hear some of the comments either from the council or from other citizens. So for me to turn in a citizen's comment card at the beginning of the meeting actually would not work for myself. Thank you.
I just had a question on the Robert Rule myself. What happens if someone has a point of order during the Robert Rule? Is that something that can happen here? Does that happen at the council, or?
Mayor, can I answer that question real quick? Oh, that's a great question. The question is, how do you handle points of order? Number one, it's important to note that only 5 people in the room can make a point of order, and that's, well, really 4, because the mayor wouldn't make a point of order. Only city council members can make a point of order. And a point of order is, I think we're breaking the rules of Robert's Rules of Procedure, Robert's Rules of Order, excuse me, and that we should be handling this matter differently. The way a point of order is handled is a member of the board says, point of order, I think we should do X instead of Y, right? The mayor rules on that. The mayor is the parliamentarian. There is no separate parliamentarian for our group. And so the mayor says, you're right, we should do this instead, or the mayor says, no, you're wrong, we're handling it this way. There's a separate motion called appeal of the chair. I think that's what it's called. It's something like that, where any member of the board can then say, I want to appeal that decision, and then we just put it to a vote. And all members of the board vote on whether or not that's the correct way to handle it. All right, so that's the way a point of order is handled. I want to say this, though. I have searched, because I'm doing a legal presentation on Robert's Rules of Order. I have searched Texas case law. Texas courts do not review errors of Robert's Rules of Procedure. If you do it wrong and you get sued for it, the court will throw out the lawsuit and say, Robert's Rules of Procedure are not law. They are only rules of procedure. And that's why I'm very comfortable telling you things like, as long as we all agree that we're handling this appropriately, there is no risk to the city that something is going to be, that we're going to get sued for a violation of it. All right? I hope that answered your question.
Anybody else? Okay.
Are we doing the question and answer before the meeting or after the meeting, or sit down now?
Public comment is still at the end of the meeting tonight, because we haven't changed
So
it.
we're not doing it right now?
Correct. Correct.
Okay, now we're gonna go to board and commission appointments, which is considered an act on appointing members to the Charter Review Commission.
All right, Mayor and Council, this is me again, and I promise this is a shorter PowerPoint. Your charter requires that you appoint a Charter Review Commission every 2 years in even-numbered years, so it's time to get that process started. And just very quickly, I want to review for the members of the public what we're doing here. The Home Rule Charter is essentially the constitution of the city. This Texas state constitution allows cities of at least 5,000 population to adopt a home rule charter and establish rules for themselves. Those rules are limited by state law. In other words, your charter can't contradict anything that's in state law. You can't say, we're not going to follow the Open Meetings Act, because the Open Meetings Act is state law. The charter is adopted by the voters. This is the voters telling the government how it should operate, okay? As such, it can only be amended by the voters. And so every 2 years, the city calls together a commission to review what's in the charter and to see whether there are any recommendations about changes that need to be made. One question that I get asked all the time is, can we just simply put an item on the ballot that says adopt new city charter and just change everything with one vote? And the answer is no. Every different subject matter has to be a different ballot measure. And so we might wind up with 13 or 26 ballot measures. There might be a really long ballot for people to vote on okay, depending on how many recommendations there are. Some things we'll be able to combine together, but for the most part, it's going to be a long list of recommendations. Once we take it to the voters, we cannot, by law, do that again for 2 years. So we're forbidden from doing this more than every 2 years. That's why your charter says we'll do it every 2 years. So here's exactly what your charter says. It says that the commission consists of 11 citizens of the city, comprised of 9 regular members and 2 alternate members. And their duties are to determine whether any provision requires revision, make recommendations to council, propose amendments to the charter, and then report its finding back to council. The Charter Review Commission makes recommendations. It requires council action to actually order the election. City council will decide which of those recommendations gets turned into a ballot measure and gets put onto an election. Here is a proposed timeline that Mary Waters, the former city secretary, worked out before she retired. And it requires us tonight to appoint that commission. We would have 3 meetings of that commission to review the charter. We would bring back to you a month from now recommendations. Then we would have a public hearing on August 5th where the public could tell us whether those are good ideas or not. And then we would order the election on August 19th for a November 5th election. I'm thoroughly prepared to follow that calendar. It is extremely quick, though. All right? I will tell you that the charter does not require that the election take place during the same year that the commission makes its recommendations. The commission only exists for 3 months, and then it automatically dissolves. They have to finish their work within 3 months. But if City Council chose instead to have the election next May, you could combine it with the City Council election that's already going to happen on that day. The advantage of doing that is twofold. Number one, it will allow us more time to thoroughly investigate these issues. One of the things I'd like to do, for example, is get department head feedback on sections of the charter that are giving them problems doing their job, right? If we have more time to do that preparation, we do a more thorough job. We bring it back in in May. And the second benefit of that, since you're already having an election, you don't have to spend $20,000 to have a special election in November. So you wind up saving more money and doing a better job. So this is the calendar that was put together by Mary, and I'm happy to follow it. But I ask council to entertain the idea of moving a little slower, more deliberately, and actually having the election in May instead of in November. All right? So the thing that council needs to do tonight is 2 things. First, I need nominations for people to be on the committee, 9 regular members and 2 alternates. I messaged each of you last week to give you forewarning that this would happen so that everyone could come prepared with some names. I'm going to ask Ms. Garrett, the city secretary, to please help me record these as people are writing these, are making these names. And then the second thing I'm going to ask you to do is to tell me, do you want me to push it through to November, or can we slow roll this a little bit and get it done in May? All right. So first, let's start with nomination of names to put onto the committee. Mayor, how would you like to proceed with this?
Yeah. I have Hannah Coulter and Dennis that I want to recommend.
Dennis's last name is
He's right there.
Peacock. Dennis Peacock.
Yes.
Hannah Coulter, did you say?
Coulter, yes.
I just want to repeat it for the microphone because I don't think your microphone's picking up.
Yes, it's
Okay.
Hannah Coulter.
Thank you. Ms. Scruggs?
Yes, I have Jay Thompson and Doug Graysons.
Mr. Knight?
Donald Brummett and Myron Schroeder.
3 is Mr. Dominguez.
Yes, I have Carol Salinas, and so far that's the only one.
Okay, Carol Salinas. Got it. Mr. Haskins?
Elise Chacon and Hector Rios.
All right. Ms. Garrett, did you get all of those names?
What was the first one, Councilmember Haskins?
Say that again.
What was the first one?
Elise Chacon and Hector Rios.
All right. Thank you, Mayor and council members. That's 9 members. Assuming that you want those 9 names to be the regular members of that committee, we now need 2 alternates. Does anyone have any alternate names to recommend?
Would you like to do it?
I'll be an alternate, yeah.
That man right there.
Your name, sir, is
Will Garner.
Will Garner. All
I
right.
had, oh, go ahead, who? Who else? Who? Who are you pointing at?
I forgot to say, I'm sorry. We'll shrimp it up.
Oh.
Mr. Lunsky.
I'll be an alternate.
Mark Lunsky?
Yes.
Mark Lunsky as an alternate. Thank you. All right. If council is satisfied with that slate, and assuming we can contact all of those people, we'll start scheduling those meetings. And if, by the way, if you're watching on the meeting tonight and we don't contact you this week with information about being on this committee, that means we're having trouble getting a hold of you. And would you please contact City Hall and ask for City Secretary Candace Garrett? And we will make sure that we get this process moving forward. Now, council, the last thing I need is direction from you, November or May.
May.
If you think it's May, go by your
Need that in the form
advice.
of a motion?
I don't. I just need direction. It sounds like I'm hearing consensus that the majority of council is comfortable with May as the deadline. So I'll get started on the process and we'll bring back recommendations.
May.
Probably,
May.
the committee's recommendations will probably come back to you, council, near the end of this calendar year so that you can be considering them around the holidays. We will need to order that election by February. So during January, you'll have an opportunity to have public hearings and hear from the public and make your own decisions about whether or not those things go onto the ballot. All right? Thank you, Mayor, members of council.
Now we're gonna go to consider an act on approving members to the Charter Review Commission.
Well, we
We did that.
Just need-
Make the motion for the first line.
Yeah, I make a motion to approve the first 9 members that we just discussed.
Mayor,
I have to-
is this on?
Oh,
Yeah. Mayor, I prepared a resolution, a written resolution for you. It's probably in the packet, and it's already set up to order the commission to get together, and then and it has blanks in it. So if you just say you're approving the resolution with those names in the blanks, we'll get that done. However, before you make that motion, Mayor, I want to make sure that it doesn't say November. And it just means I've got to pull it up right quick.
I don't know where that note, where is that? What, do we have that? Something,
Yep. So
is
it's
it
gonna
on
be
the agenda? Oh, okay.
Gary. Gary.
We gotta pay them, but no,
Oh, right
the
here.
I don't have the resolution.
There's a document. I'm not able to access it.
All right. Give me
So,
just a second. Yeah, that's the resolution right there.
Yeah. They can
I'm
just
going to,
say,
I
hey,
I need to confirm whether it says November or not. I may have been silent for the rest of that.
Well, here's the resolution.
Well, I got it. I found it.
Mayor, the resolution that's in the packet,
I got
the
it.
agenda packet, thank you.
You want me to read
does-
it?
You can, or I can if you'd like me to. It does not say whether the election will happen during November or May, so we don't need to change it at all. The resolution just names the people that are going to be on the commission. It creates the commission and then says that it will dissolve after 3 months, which is what the charter says.
Okay.
So did you want him to read the resolution or just read what's on the agenda item?
No, they just need to.
To make a motion?
He can just read what's on the agenda, and the motion that will be made is to approve it by filling in the blanks on the resolution with the names that have already been provided.
You want me to do
Make a
that?
motion, yeah.
I make a motion to approve a resolution of the City Council of the City of Aransas Pass, Texas, appointing a Charter Review Commission, appointing regular and reserve members to the Charter Review Commission, and declaring an effective date during the May elections.
During the May elections, and to fill in the blanks in the resolution with the names that have been provided tonight.
And to fill in the blanks with the names of the members that we have reviewed tonight.
Second.
Something.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Okay. Now, we're gonna go to the consent agenda. All of the following items on the consent agenda are considered to be routine by the city council and will be enacted with one motion. There will be no separate discussion of this item unless the council member so requests. If discussion is desired, that item will be removed from the consent agenda and will be considered separately.
I move to approve the May 6, 2024 regular meeting minutes.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, now we're gonna go to city manager, which is consider an act on designating a council member to serve on the city's budget review committee for 2024 to 2025 fiscal year.
Mayor and council, that's pretty self-explanatory. We simply need a direction from you and a vote on who would be the council representative for the Budget Finance Committee.
I still feel we need to have this in front of the entire council with however many workshops that starting at 5:30 in the afternoon, keep it uniform with the meetings. Because it's been said by someone that sat in this seat years ago, you can't govern a city by committee. And this is, we're talking about the budget, this is the biggest deal we can talk about up here. And that's my opinion, and I believe that's how we should conduct this.
I agree with that, because everybody needs to know what's in that budget, not just somebody, one person approving it. We all need to be able to approve the budgets, because we all may have different ideas about it.
How many budget meetings are there?
Oh, my goodness. We have, I don't know, 4 or 5 altogether. We have 4, 5, 6 mini budget meetings, and we have 2 public hearings, one of which has been held already, another one at the end as required by state law. But every meeting on the budget is open to the public, and there are always discussions by the council on it.
So every meeting that during the day when we have the budget meetings, they're open to the public.
Well, we're talking 2 different things. In the case of the daytime meetings that goes from 8 a.m. until 5 p.m., the public's welcome to come in on that. That's no problem. But to find someone to stay 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, and it sometimes has gone into the 2-week period.
So can you explain to the public why they're from 8 to 5?
Why there's what? I'm sorry.
Why are the meetings from 8 to 5? So that they'll understand the process.
Because it is something that we deal with each department head. We have to go through every line item of the budget, dealing with issues such as paper towels, etc., as well as some of the larger issues. The bulk of it is going to be the smaller issues that we deal with on a day-by-day basis. Because we have department heads one after the other attending those meetings, as I said, it will last all day. Otherwise, we are going into 2 or 3 in the morning for those meetings if we follow the procedure of going through every line item in the budget, which I believe anyway, it's important for us to do, everybody to do.
How many departments heads are there?
We will be dealing with approximately 6 to 8, yes. Keep in mind that in the case of Public Works, for example, that will sometimes take 2 days or a day to 2 days. It's not just something that we rush through. It's something, and the police department takes a long period of time. So depending on the budget, depending on the department, it can be a very lengthy process going through that department alone.
Mr. Edwards, just to be clear, does it have to be a current city council member? Or can it be somebody from the public?
The reason we have done that in the past, and I've mentioned this at the work session on Saturday, this is not something we pulled out of the air.
Correct.
This is something that S&P, because of the city's history of having an extremely poor budget, they said, here's what you're going to have to do in order to meet our S&P, that's the rating agency, requirements. to meet the requirements that they will have to keep us in the area of having a strong budget. There hasn't been a strong budget in the past. There is now a strong budget, but working with S&P, and they set up, working with us, they've set up a system to put in place a budgetary system that would take our fund balance, which is a measurement of the budget. When Sandra first got here, when I first got here, we were 7 to 8% of the general fund. A city should not be below 25%. S&P said, when we said, okay, we'll do 25%, they said, no, your reputation is too bad. You have to go to 40%. We didn't think we could do it. We've been at 40% for the past few years. And the reason I'm bringing that up is it's not us just pulling this out of the air. We put together this budget process. We have put in place ordinances that were not in place. The list goes on. So we're doing this for the protection of the city because of past actions, and we've corrected those actions. And if you want to veer from that, then I've got to go to S&P and let them know that the council wants to veer from that. But they're going to be checking our what do you call it, our audit every year anyway, to make sure that we are doing what they've asked us to do. Sandra, you want to comment?
Yes, I just wanted to go ahead, Mr. Haskins.
Nobody's accusing you of pulling it out of the air, Mr. Edwards. The problem is if one council members on that committee, they have different likes and dislikes of certain things and would otherwise allow something that the rest of us wouldn't allow, or wouldn't allow something that the rest of us would allow. It goes both ways.
If I
Like I
may-
said, I'm not accusing you of pulling anything out of the air. I already know about S&P and all of that. It's just that we need to know what everything is collectively, instead of one person holding the bag of marbles.
Well, it's not
So-
one person.
So my question,
Yes.
again, I think Joe might have already touched on this. So one of us would be appointed to this committee, but that's not limited to everyone else
No,
being
no.
able to attend.
There are going to be multiple opportunities, and it happens
Every
every
one of
year
us can be there for
input
every meeting.
from the council.
So-
The reason we had a council person at the beginning, we wanted council input. And because we know the process we have to go through is very laborious, and it takes a lot of time, but we still wanted a council member in there to represent the council. That's the reason we've done it in the past, but there are multiple opportunities.
So
for the
to
council.
say if you pick somebody and two other people are available to go to it, would they have input on it also, or is it just that one person with input?
Well, if that gets back to the issue of the entire council, then what you're saying is, can the entire council be involved in that process? It is something, that's a question we haven't had to this point, because it's worked well to this point where if there are problems, we do take that back to the council. And there are problems in every budgetary process, but every year. But if we have meetings where the questions are being asked that aren't relevant, that's going to delay this process, and we have a schedule to follow with the budget process.
What I wanted to add, Mr. Edwards, is we will be filing a preliminary budget with the city secretary. So what we do is, our budgets are at the department level right now. They're going to submit their budget by the 28th of this month. By a couple of weeks later, we will be submitting a preliminary budget with the city secretary's office.
Can't hear it. Could you put that on the microphone?
Oh,
Can't hear it.
sorry about that. I have a very loud voice, I'm sorry.
I hear what you're saying.
Okay, can you hear me now, sir?
No.
No, not you. The
Oh,
microphone's not loud.
well, it's on, the light is on. Is it working?
I can understand what you're saying.
Can you hear me?
No.
Yes.
Yes? Okay, thank you. Okay, so what I'm saying is, we're gonna file a budget with the city secretary's office. We had the exercise last week on Friday where you all ranked the priority projects, right? So basically, what we're going to be doing that week that we're going to be working on the budget is going each single line item on the budget, with the exception, because we've never done this, of salaries. We don't talk about salaries or benefits, anything having to do with an employee's salary. All we talk about is the other operating expenses, whether they're going to want a capital outlay item, what to pay the light, the water, all of that. So then when we get to the capital outlay items, we look at the list, how you all rank those projects that the department directors presented. And at that point, Mr. Edwards would decide, okay, we're going to keep that. We're going to keep that in there until we get the certified values from the appraisal district. Once we get the certified values from the appraisal district, we're really going to know how much money we're going to have. How much money we're going to have to be able to make the budget work. And at that point, we're going to take another look at the budget and decide, go through all the capital outlay items and say, okay, of these items that the Public Works wants, whatever they presented, of the big ticket items, what can we afford to keep in the budget? And what can we not afford to keep in the budget? At that point, we're going to address, are we going to do COLAs? Are we going to keep salaries the same? What are we going to do with benefits? But the weekly, it is really a 1 week long meeting from 8 to 5 every day. We're going to be discussing each line item in very detail. The training, what trainings you're going to go to, how much those trainings are going to cost, travel, all of those items, all of that is going to be discussed in that week. That's why some of the departments like the PD and Public Works, which are the bigger of the two departments, do take about over a day to get through those departments. So it is a whole 8 hours that we're going to be in here discussing that. But there will be a preliminary budget filed with the city secretary. There is no approval. You will be approving the budget in September. You will be getting the budget beforehand, and you will be seeing everything that is in the budget. The person I think that's going to be on the committee doesn't approve the budget. The council as a whole approves the budget. If you want to make changes, is at that time that we can go ahead and make changes to the budget. But that's what I wanted to explain about the process.
Okay, so what you're saying then is after the preliminary budget comes out, we have the right to say yay or nay on the items also?
Yeah. You can do that at any point
Yes.
in the process, not just in the preliminary stage of the budget. And that happens throughout the budgetary process. And also the things that we deal with at this meeting, I hate to sound menial, but it's stuff that deals with the day-to-day operation of the city. The council, by law, does not get involved with that. It's something that we have to deal with at the staff level. I'm talking about the smaller stuff. Now, the bigger stuff that we talked about at the Saturday meeting, that's a different matter. But stuff like paper towels, et cetera, that's the day-to-day operation of the city, and that's specifically addressed.
Thank you, I understand.
Okay.
And I understand this, but also know that as elected officials, our number one duty is to adopt a conservative and balanced budget. And in my opinion, every council member should be included in every step of the budget process. And I know it can be done, and we could start them at 5:30, because bouncing meetings from 5:30, 8:30, I've heard from numerous people in town, and I know everyone else sitting up here has, well, why are they having a meeting at 8:30? Oh, they don't want to include us. And that's something from myself sitting up here that I'd like to start hearing that word disappear over time, but it's not happening. And but that's y'all's call, what y'all guys want to do with this.
So does that mean have every department head
Get paid over.
Oh, we don't have, well,
afterwards? I mean, after 5:30, or how does that work?
well, we don't
You
have
have the
to,
discussion with them.
huh?
You have to have the discussion with them of what they want.
Yeah, I'm just,
And after they have that discussion, then they bring it back to the council, and then that's when we have a meeting, hey, this is what we want to do with it, and that's when you put your input in it. That's the way I feel about it. It's okay if they have a discussion. It's only a discussion of what they are putting out there for us to say yes or no, because ultimately, us as a council, we're the one that says yes or no to that budget, plain and simple.
Yeah, I can't be in that meeting all day.
But
Did,
they're like me, I can't.
Did I hear you
I
say,
can.
Sandra, that even after we've done it, after this budget is done and over with, you don't know how much money you're gonna have until afterwards?
Correct. We don't get right now, what we got from the appraisal district are estimated values. So people are still going through the appeal process over there to appeal their value. We're going to get, I brought up my budget calendar, I'm sorry. We're going to get certified values from the appraisal district on July the 26th. That's when we're going to get our values from them. That's when they've already looked at 90% of their ARB cases, and they've already settled. So they're at a good point to telling us how much to expect. So at that point, we're going to know, because the biggest bulk of our money comes from sales tax, but the bigger one is property tax, and that's what we need to wait. So we go through this exercise, we keep everything in there, and after the July 26th meeting, we're going to start to look at, this is going to be the revenue. And then it's when Mr. Edwards starts looking at you all's priority list. And he starts to say, okay, this is how the city council ranked these projects, so we need to make these projects work. So we're going to have to take these projects that didn't get ranked or got little stars, that weren't the council priorities, we're going to have to take those out. And we're going to have to concentrate on the bigger ones that rank the most. So if we're going to be presenting to you, we're going to file a budget with the city secretary on July 31st, which is going to be a proposed budget, which more than likely is going to have everything in there. It's still going to have all the requests from the city, from the departments. No cuts would have been made to that budget yet, because we want to be able to present it up, give you a picture of this is what's out there. This is what the departments requested. This is how much money we're getting. This is how we're going to either lower the fund balance or increase the fund balance. This is where we are. Either we have a deficit or an over.
What is shown to us in that preliminary budget, is it like what all the items are? And I don't care about the paper towels and all of that. I'm talking about the high dollar budget items. Like if David wants a new steamroller or something, is it going to be put down steamroller?
What usually,
do we want it or not?
Yeah, what usually happens is we'll give you a summary. So that's what I was getting at. On August 19th, there's going to be a summary presentation of the budget to the city council. At that point in time, we're going to present to you a PowerPoint presentation of the big ticket items, like you were talking about. Those big ticket items of what's left in the budget at that moment in time. And at that moment in time, you can say, where is this item that I wanted? Why didn't that make the cut? Or why are we keeping that item that's not, at that point, you can continue to say, we need to look at this more closely. These were not my priorities, at that moment in time. But we will give you a summary, because we have in the past, of all the capital improvements and all the big capital outlays that are gonna still in the budget. And then we're gonna give you a summary of, these are the revenues, these are the expenditures, this is your deficit. More than likely it's going to have a deficit, because it always does at that point in time still. Or this is how much you have left. This is how much we're going to grow the fund balance. Are we going to draw the fund balance down? Those are decisions that we're going to have to make at that point in time. And that's when we start making those hard decisions. At these meetings, everything stays, all of it. All the asks that they want, all of that stays in the budget, because we don't know what we can or cannot afford at that time. It's in the August 19th meeting, when we do the presentation to council, that's when you're going to notice some of that paring down, some of that little trimming of it down. And that's when you can say, well, I wanted this other stuff here. Why didn't it make the cut? But we do go based on the ranking that the council did on Friday of last week. We do, if the council all voted for one thing, then we're going to try to keep that one thing there. If that thing got 4 votes, then that's the priority that the council wants, and we're going to try to make that and keep that in the budget. Okay.
David, ask for a steamroller.
Favor of the council?
I'll make the motion to appoint Kerry Scruggs to serve on the city budget review committee for the 2024-2025 fiscal year.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 No.
Oh, this should have been handled by the council as a whole.
My thoughts exactly.
We're not hearing everything. I didn't hear that.
Mr. Knight, was that a no vote?
Yes.
All right, so that's a 2-2 tie. Mr. Mayor, we need a vote from the mayor to
Yes.
break the tie.
I approve it.
Thank you.
I know that was coming.
But like I said, y'all are welcome to join every day they show up.
You can come to the meetings. Everyone is welcome to the meetings.
Yeah, we're gonna go to consider an act on approving a contract with H2O Partners for PA work to allow for consultation work related to Hurricane Harvey, PW 03988, recovery not to exceed 50,000.
Mayor and council, this first item, 6.2, with the 50,000 figure attached to it, that's the overall cost for what I'm about to explain. And the next item, 6.3, is related to this. And it's related to some specific work that would come to 23,000, but that's out of the 50,000. Now, what this is going to be used for, it's kind of, I apologize, kind of a long story, unfortunately, but it's interesting. We had the issue of the bulkhead. Bulkhead, as you know, because of the storm, collapsed in different places. We all went through that. And FEMA covered, and hopefully will continue to cover, all of the repair work to the bulkhead. Well, as they were getting close to the Captain Katie's shop at the end of Comground Harbor, you know where that is, the ground was giving away under the shop. And again, all this is related to Hurricane Harvey. We had to demolish the building because there are pictures of the bulkhead giving away under the building. And there was, people had to work in there on the bulkhead, right in that immediate area. And it presented a danger to life and limb, presented some other issues for us also. But we decided to demolish it to avoid the problems. So it was demolished, and then we have temporary buildings out there for Captain Katie's. Well, we go through FEMA representatives like 1 per hour almost. They change rapidly. Now, the latest one, and they all mean well. Don't misunderstand me if they're watching this. They all mean well. Their work, they do excellent work. But with different people come different issues. And we are now to the point with a new FEMA representative. He is saying he's being asked by his superiors, should we in fact replace that building? That's what we're asking FEMA to do. Replace the building that was taken down. It was related to the work that was being done on the bulkhead. Initially, they were looking at that, in my opinion. They were looking at it, they didn't say this, but in my opinion, they were looking at it favorably. No final decision. Then they started, the people upstairs started asking questions, and they sent us a long questionnaire. And Sandra and I have had meetings with engineers, et cetera, to respond to those RFI, request for information. That information is now ready to go. We've answered all the questions, but we needed the help of H2O to do that. It was a very technical job to make sure we were meeting the FEMA requirements. So to cover ourselves, it's not to exceed 50,000, but the work that we're sending off to FEMA comes to 23,000, but that's part of that 50,000. I hope I didn't thoroughly confuse you with all that, but that's what's happening. Anything to add to that, Sandra?
H2O is a company that we hired to help us with the PA assistance part of it. They've been helping us through this process. The contract has lapsed, so we're trying to reestablish that relationship with them to help us with this last final project to get Captain Katie's rebuilt by FEMA and being able to tie that to Harvey. We see the connection. Like Mr. Edwards said, I think at the beginning, FEMA saw the connection when they got an estimated price from the engineer of how much it would cost to replace Captain Katie's. They kind of started to waver a little bit. So they submitted an RFI. Literally, the document's about 50 pages long, and we are wanting to hire H2O to help us compile our response back to FEMA so that we can proceed and hopefully be successful in getting them to fund the construction of Captain Katie's.
Okay, well, I'll make a motion to approve a contract with H2O Partners for work to allow for consulting work related to the Hurricane Harvey and not to exceed $50,000.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All
Aye.
opposed?
Present.
We go to consider and act on approving tax order 1 with H2O.
Mayor, I'm sorry, just to clarify, Mr. Haskins, did you vote present on that?
Yes, I did.
Is that intended as an abstention or as a no vote?
No.
Thank you.
Now we go to consider and act on approving task order 1 with H2O Partners for additional consulting work related to Hurricane Harvey.
Okay. Mayor and Council, this has come up to us and presented to us as a need for a representative on this particular board. I think Brenda's agreed to serve on this, or? Oh, okay. Okay, I'm sorry. Oh, we're back. Okay, 6-3 is tied to 6-2, and it's a matter of asking your approval to move forward with it. We've already talked about it.
So it's two different items, though?
Yes.
One is the overall contract, the $50,000, and this one is the $23,000 I referred to for the specific work related to this particular item of the RFI.
Mr. Edwards, Mayor, for clarification, are we talking about item 6.3, consider an act on approving task order number 1?
Yes.
Yes, that's correct, yes.
All right, so the last vote was on item 6-2.
Two.
This is 6-3. Okay, thank you.
Yes, they're tied in together. So basically, the top one was the contract, and now we authorized the contract. Now we're telling them we're going to issue a task order not to exceed $23,000. Even though the contract is for $50,000 and we approved it, we're not to exceed their invoicing and the work that they're doing for us, not to exceed $23,000.
And they'll both be 90% reimbursed by FEMA.
90% reimbursed by FEMA and 75% of the 10% reimbursed by the state. So in other words, we're going to be paying 2.5%.
Okay, thank you.
And just to clarify, that 23,000 is part of that 50,000?
Correct, sir.
previous?
It's not on top. It's
Okay.
with it, not to encompass that, yes.
I make a motion to approve task order 1 with H2O Partners for additional consulting work related to Hurricane Harvey,
Second.
not to exceed $23,000.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, now we're gonna go to consider an act on identifying one primary and one alternative representative candidate to the Stormwater Management Technology Technical Committee, SMTC, established by a joint resolution adopted by the City of Rockport, Town of Fulton, Aransas County, and the Aransas County Navigation District to foster unity and cooperation in developing and executing drainage projects for the benefit of Aransas County residents.
And again, that's something Brenda has agreed to serve on and represent us on. And it's something that we need to have representation for this. Was there an alternate? I don't recall. Oh, that's right. Marcy has an engineering degree or environmental degree and would be very helpful to us as an alternate working with Brenda. So Marcy with Chamber of Commerce, and she's agreed to do this also.
Yeah, and y'all are gonna include that drainage ditch leaving out of Aransas Pass on the right-hand side to get it all cleaned up and cut through that railroad track and all that to drain that water on that part of town, right?
We will add it to the list, yes.
Yeah, when Aransas County Commissioner Pat Russo, I believe is how you say her name, she contacted me a couple of weeks ago about they had reorganized this whole committee, and so that's how we are able to be involved in this once again. So I make a motion to identify Brenda Hoyas and Marcy Gandera to the Stormwater Management Technical Committee established by a joint resolution adopted by the City of Rockport, Town of Fulton, Aransas County, and the Aransas County Navigation District to foster unity and cooperation in developing and executing drainage projects for the benefit of Aransas County residents.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Now we're going to go to consider an act of approving the Coastline Resources Response Action Plan, PSA, for Con Brown Harbor.
Mayor and Council, another interesting one. This is something that we've been dealing with for a long time. We had those 3 environmental issues at Con Brown Harbor, which prevented us from doing much of the work we want to do out there. Been there for decades. Consequently, there are liens at Con Brown Harbor because of the environmental work that needs to be done out there. And this is 2 of the 3 problem areas are resolved. We got them resolved. Meeting with TCEQ. There's a 3rd area that's taking forever. We, thanks to the mayor, he got a state representative involved with this to see if they can speed up that 3rd problem area, which is taking forever. The representative, Todd Hunter, he was very helpful to us. And consequently, immediately got a call after Todd Hunter talked with him from TCEQ saying, yeah, we want to work with you to see if we can get this 3rd one resolved. So we set up a meeting with TCEQ and also asked Brenda to sit in on that and asked the engineers with Ardura, who are the environmental engineers, to sit in with us to see if there's a way to speed up the process. Much to our, well, I shouldn't say that, but they worked with us to say there is a way to speed up the process to essentially give a preliminary approval, because they still have to do tests. But that at least gets us further down the road and gets us a preliminary approval for this last environmental area that's taking forever. Brenda, anything to add to that?
Yes. So part of that process is to do a response action plan that TCEQ asks for. And so in order to do that, Ardura is asking for this professional services agreement, and that would be the 28,890 that you see in the back of your report, to be able to put all that information together to say that they're going to continue testing and that we are going to continue with doing some phytoremediation, which means that we will be planting certain plants in the area to help absorb the contamination, so like that we can clear it up faster and hopefully get that approval faster than just waiting for it to happen within its own time.
I make a motion to approve the Coastline Resources Response Action Plan, PSA, for Con Brown Harbor.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
Okay, now we're gonna go to Development Services, which is consider an act and approving the General Land Office contract number 20-065-109-C303, amendment number 1 for the construction activities associated with the Maddox and Goodnight Pump Station.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This was just more of a formality. So originally when we went out for bids for the Maddox Pump Station and Goodnight Pump Station, it was considered heavy construction, which means they're going to set pumps, drive shafts, impellers, things of that sort. But on Maddox, we actually have to build a building around the pump. So when this project was let out, it was built under heavy construction wages. So these projects are federally funded, so they fall under the Davis-Bacon Act, which means they have to submit a certified payroll and things of that sort. But the wages for building construction wasn't included because it was originally just heavy construction. So all we're asking is for an amendment, for you guys to approve the amendment to add the building wages, so that way when they do their certified payroll, at least we'll have a guide to go off of. So there'll be no cost, anything. It's, like I said, it's just a formality.
I make a motion to approve the GLO contract, amendment number 1 for the construction activities with the Maddox and Goodnight pump stations.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, now we're gonna go to consider an act on approving the request for proposals for water line materials from Ferguson Enterprises, $38,777.35 for American Rescue Plan Package 3.
During my budget presentation, if you remember, one of the projects that the city was saving $807,000 with the crew doing projects in-house, I told you one of them came in at $259,000 for a contractor to do, and I said, but Monday I'll be bringing over a memo for you guys to approve the water materials for, I think, $60,000 or $70,000. Well, I was 100% wrong. It's actually $38,000, not $60,000. So all that's left to buy from this is just the bedding material and the rental of the track skid steer that we've been using because of the sand. So if you're to double that, $70,000, it'll be a $200,000 savings by doing this project in-house versus getting a contractor. So if you guys don't mind approving that $38,000, we can order the materials, and as soon as we finish the project we're doing now, we'll jump over to that one.
Dale, make a motion to approve the request for proposals for waterline materials from Ferguson Enterprises for the American Rescue Plan Package 3.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Then we're gonna go to consider an act on approving a certificate of construction completion with liquidated damages for Gala Underground LLC, the Sherwood Forest Sewer Project.
Yeah, so we had contracted out the sewer side of Sherwood Forest. Those depths were 13, 14 feet deep. With the groundwater, we didn't want to risk our crew doing that. So we did a contractor. They did a change order for additional days because of weather, and another change order. And at this point, they were still months over the deadline. They couldn't justify those extra days, so we're just going to go after liquidated damages. I think the liquidated damages is $51,600, which basically comes out to quite a few months of delay. So this will close out the project. Once we get this signed off, we'll give them the remaining balance, which is $7,000 or $7,950, and that'll close out the project. All that'll be left is just to do the Benoit, Denipat, Marshall, that will be done in-house with our crew because the depths are only about 6 feet deep. And after that, all that will be left is that frontage road on 35, State Highway 35, where that I presented also in that budget presentation. And at that point, all of Sherwood would be taken care of.
I move to approve the certificate of construction completion with liquidated damages for the Guerrera Underground LLC, the Sherwood Forest Sewer Project.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, now we're gonna go to consider an act on removing Mary Juarez, City Secretary, as a signatory from all city bank accounts.
Well, good afternoon. Mary was one of the signers on our accounts as city secretary. So since she's retired from our city, we're asking to have her removed from the accounts.
I'll make a motion to remove Mary Juarez, City Secretary, as a signatory from all city bank accounts.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, now we're gonna go to consider an act in...
For some reason you're skipping all these.
What?
For some reason you're skipping all these.
Yes.
Why?
We normally do because
Administrative.
we all have them on the computer, you go through them and stuff. And if you have any questions, you ask them. Consider an act on approving the automatic increase in garbage services as stated in the contract with Frontier K2 LLC.
Every year, around this time of the year, our solid waste contracting company comes to us and does an analysis on the contract. And this year, the cost increase that we're asking to pass through to the customers is 64 cents. They're saying that they're going to increase, their cost increase is 3.38%. So that comes out to a residential, this is just for this residential, the example that I'm giving of the 64 cents. For residential total, it's going to be 64 cents, and it's just going to be a pass-through cost. We're going to incur the increase, and we're just passing the increase on to the customer. And this will be effective next month.
I make a motion to approve the automatic increase in garbage services as stated in the contract with Frontier K2 LLC.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, now we're gonna go to public safety, which is consider an act and approving the chief of police to enter into an agreement switching from Brazos Tech to Trusted Driver for mobile ticket and document management system.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. This is something that originally was brought to me at one of the board member meetings that I attended with Texas Police Chiefs Association as a regional director, and has since come down to the area. Another police agency brought it down, and we shared this with staff for staff input and feedback. I also coupled it with, as I pointed out in the agenda memo, a survey that I do to staff. I do surveys occasionally to see where we fail, where we can improve, what they feel we need to be doing. And Trusted Driver is one of those things. It kind of streamlines and leverages technology in our favor. We already issue them, as you recall, city cell phones that are under an agreement through T-Mobile. Those cell phones will each have a copy of this app, as they do right now with Brazos Tech, but there will be no printer. We will actually be handing out cards with barcodes, URL addresses, and phone numbers to where the driver, if they're issued a citation, they can research it that way, calling in, scanning the barcode, going to the URL, or if it's a trespass warning that we issue out, same thing. If we're impounding a vehicle, seizing property, everything will be moved into a cloud-based system that will also store those records locally and are always available. If they need a printed out copy, we can definitely accommodate that as well. But what we're trying to do is streamline and cut down on paper use. We will no longer have a need for in-car printers, and the savings after the first year, you will see currently we're paying Brazos Tech for their system about $13,264.97. The first year with Trusted Driver will cost us $16,000 a year, which the difference from the 13 to the 16 will be made up out of the asset forfeiture fund. Year 2, $9,000. Year 3, $7,200. Year 4, $7,900. And year 5, $8,300. As you can see, there are savings built in. We always try to leverage technology that works better for us, especially when there's also a savings to the city out of fiscal prudence. The other thing is the system we're on, Brazos, which kind of is the authority across the state when it comes to ticket writer solutions. For many years now, I've used them for many years. They have left their systems that are exposed online in antiquated or archaic shape. My personal opinion, being a tech guy myself and developing websites and web infrastructure, I don't like that system. I think it has the potential of exposing us to risk, and we need to be responsible for the people's data. This newer system, I've actually met with the engineers behind its creation and architecture, and they've bestowed a lot of confidence in how they safeguard that information. The other thing is robust reporting. Every year I got to report racial profiling to the state of Texas. I seem to always have conflicts in the data I query in the Brazos system, not giving me the complete picture. And if you add one name or take one name away or something like that, it can entirely change that report, whereas this system is more modernized and it allows more robust reporting that we need to be able to rely upon so that we're most accurate in what information we share. Again, if you guys approve this now tonight, that we go forward, they're not charging us. They want to get us on board. They want to build the forms. Come October 1 during budgeting, if we continue like I anticipate to budget for the normal system, which we have to, the overage will be paid out of the asset forfeiture. The normal will be paid out of the funds that the court and we use to pay that. And then each year thereafter, there will be savings realized to the city going forward.
I make a motion to approve the chief of police to enter into an agreement switching from Brazos Tech to Trusted Driver for mobile ticket and document management system.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, now we're gonna go to city council or staff announcements.
Actually, an update on the Maddox Street Goodnight Storm pumps, I believe, is in there. And I believe it may have been answered already from what was said earlier. If not, David is here to.
A few more.
Okay, good.
Good evening, Mayor Council. So we have broken ground on Maddox Pump Station, so they already demolished the old pedestal. They're actually forming the new one. According to their schedule, the pumps should be delivered the week of June 30th, so basically in 2 weeks. They're anticipating substantial completion at the end of August, but we're thinking it's going to be operable before that. They're talking about substantial when they actually finish building things and doing the vegetation and the cleanup and the punch list and things of that sort. So the good thing is that the pumps are literally right around the corner, and that's been our biggest issue, is just waiting. We did sign the contract with them months and months ago, but they placed the order months and months ago, and now they're about 2 weeks away from being delivered. So.
Is the discharge line going through the seawall, is that still in good shape?
There's a piece that's broken that we're actually going to expose ourselves. It's not in the contract to fix it because it's further down, but we're talking about it today, about exposing it and see what it would take to get it fixed.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good deal. Thanks, David.
Do you guys have any, they do have other details in here. I don't know if you have anything specific you want to ask.
Probably because I didn't know, I don't know if you have it. What type of engine is going to be put down there?
I know it's going to be a hydraulic pump. I don't remember the brand or the type it is,
like
but it's not going to have the traditional drive shaft where you spin the gearbox and the impeller. It's going to have hydraulic hoses going all the way to the bottom, and the impeller is going to be ran off of that. So if anything goes bad, you don't have to worry about the drive shaft. It's more just changing out hydraulic hoses.
How about the diesel engine itself? What diesel engine are you putting?
I can get that detail for you.
Okay.
I didn't come prepared with that exact.
Yeah, I wouldn't either.
But
If
more
you
likely
get to me.
it's a Cummins maybe. I'm assuming, or
okay.
Yeah, but I can find out for sure.
All right, appreciate it, David.
I'll send Gary an email on that answer, and then you can distribute it.
Okay.
Anything else?
Thank you.
Okay.
David.
Now we're gonna go to citizen comments. Citizen comments are intended for the matters that are not scheduled on the agenda. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes and state your name and address for the record. Be advised that the Texas Open Meeting Act prohibits the city council from responding and discussing your comments. The law authorizes the following: make a statement of factual information, recite existing policy, advise that this subject may be placed on the agenda for a subsequent meeting.
My name is Carol Salinas, Aransas Pass, and I am assuming we have a new city secretary, and I was wondering if she could be introduced to the public, please.
What?
Well, yes. Our new interim city secretary is Candace Garrett.
Welcome, Candace Garrett.
Thank you.
Nice to meet you again.
Anybody else?
My name's Mark Lunsky. I own Shrimp It Up. And I am trying to do a deal with the city for 2 years on Con Harbor. And I just want to know who I got to deal with to get it done. Okay? Y'all want to do a deal? I'm willing. I'm ready to go. I've been talking to Gary. I've been talking to city council members. What do you want to do? You want to lease it? You want to sell it? You tell me. Because I'm ready to go. This city I want to build, and I've told you my parameters. I'm not going to spend 10 grand to give you some preliminary drawings on a piece of property I don't own or lease. You want to give me the deal? I'll build something. I'm going to build a dance hall. I'm going to build a 15,000 square foot resort with a 15 motel on it. and a boat ramp. I talked to Gary about it. I'm, 2 years, Gary, now? We've been talking about it. I want to get it done. If we don't do it here, I'll just go to Rockport or go to Portland. Okay, I want to stay in Aransas Pass. I got investments in here. I want to build this town. I love this town. But we got to make some moves. We got to make some decisions on how to do shit around here. Excuse my language. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have said that. But we got to do something. And I want to sit down with anybody here that can make a decision to give me some answers. And apparently, Gary said, you know, I got to go in front of the city council. I got to go to you. Let's all get together, sit in a meeting. Let's get it done. If you want to do it. If you don't want to do it, let's not do it.
Call for a
It's
meeting.
sitting there doing nothing. It's not making anybody any money. I'll guarantee you, I can do $2 to $3 million revenue a year on that thing, maybe more. But we're not doing nothing right now.
Yeah, I'll tell you what's-
This whole town's sitting dead right now.
Well, we have a procedure in place for development,
We have talked about that procedure.
but
Okay,
if
you know
he
what? I'm
wants to
tired of
have
the
a
procedure.
meeting.
Let's just. I'm an impatient man. Let's just get it done or not do it. I mean, I'm just. I'm tired of talking. Words are great. Let's just get it done or not do it. That's my decision right now. I'm telling you guys. You know what? I'm not.
Can we put him on executive session?
You know,
so
you got.
we can
I want to
hear
sit down
it?
with anybody, anytime, anywhere, I'm at your convenience. Let's sit down and do a deal to make the city worthy and me worthy. Let's go buy-sell agreement where everybody's happy. I want y'all to make money, and me make money. That's all I'm asking.
I've offered that several times, and
But you want me to do plans with me? I'm not going to give you plans. I'm not going to spend $10,000 to give you plans on a potential property. Give me the deal on the property first.
Mr. Mayor, if I can interrupt briefly, just to remind council that public comment is not the time for a dialogue back and forth
I'm sorry, that's
between
what I said. I'm
members of the
just
public.
making my comment.
However, I have heard a request from Ms. Scruggs to put this on an agenda for a future meeting, and so we'll make sure that that happens, and we'll make sure
Another
that the
comment?
speaker is
Is the
informed when that
public
will be.
entitled to the books for the city to see what the budget is and how it's made and what it's spent on? And I would like to know if I could get a copy of how many employees you got, how much money we spend, all this other stuff, so I could look at it. I want to see a budget. If I'm spending money in this town, I want to see what it's being spent on. I do budgets every year. I do multi-million-dollar budgets, and I want to see, it takes you how much to do a $1 million budget? I can do a $10 million budget in about a week and a half. I want to see some budgets. It's not too much to ask, okay? And I've looked on the website. I can't understand your website. I'm sorry. Maybe I'm computer illiterate. I can't understand it. So I would like to know who I talk to get public knowledge about the budget and where it's being spent and how much people, you said about budgeting on paper towels and stuff. Really? Paper towels? We're not spending much on paper towels. I want to see how much we're paying people, what they're doing, and how much they're being paid. How much you're being paid. These people get paid nothing to do a lot. I think we ought to pay these people to do stuff. You're getting paid, she's getting paid, he's getting paid. These people aren't. I don't think that's fair. That's just me.
It's public information. You can FOIA it.
Okay, that's just me. This is my opinion. I get 3 minutes. Maybe I'm done. I think these people ought to get paid. They make a lot of good decisions for everybody. And I think to make it worthy, they ought to get paid just like you, and everybody else.
Oh, I agree.
Done.
Hallelujah. I totally agree.
Thank God he's on the charter committee.
Oh, my goodness.
Thanks for doing that deal for me, Will.
Will Garner. Our city manager is either a crook or he's lying. Going by what you said, Mrs. Scruggs. On February 12th meeting, you said he lived on Howland Avenue. Then why is he filing homestead exemption for a house in Corpus Christi? I gave you all the proof if you'll look at it. He's committing tax fraud with that. But if that's not the case, and y'all are just covering for him, and he just has a house here. Mills versus Varlet from 1964 from San Vicente County says resident is intent. He clearly bought this house on November 9th, 2021, after he'd been here since 2017. Now that all this being said, Chief, you have the information now. they both can't be true. So something is not right. Something needs to be investigated. I believe our city attorney is required by law to report something. And that being said, Mr. Attorney, you don't work for all these people. You work for these people, whether they agree with me or not. To be clear, I have no ill will. I just don't like people making rules for the citizens when they don't follow them themselves. Thank you.
My name is Donald Brummett. I live right here in the city, and it's public knowledge that you cannot sell that harbor, any land around it, unless it's brought back before the people. They're the ones that voted never to sell the harbor. Thank you.
I guess I'm last, I'll be the best. Believe it or not, Mayor, I'm gonna say thank you all. You got one car removed from my street, there's still one more to go. But y'all got one done, so I'm happy about that. But I'm here to talk about a situation. I've seen one tow truck in this town in 12 years. It was an accident. And I came up to the police department, I talked to a police officer, very polite. I said, let me ask you a question. There's 100 reasons why you can stop a vehicle. There's only one reason you can't. And that one reason is you ain't got a reason. Okay, I mean, it could be speeding, blinker, telephone, anything. He can stop the vehicle. When he stops that vehicle and you pull up the license plate number and he has no insurance, what do? He said, well, what do you mean? I said, how does that sound funny? What do? Do you tow the vehicle away? No, we have the option to let him go. So you mean to tell me the young man or woman, whoever it is, no matter what their age, can drive around this town with no insurance and you give them a little citation? That's not fair. That's not fair to everybody who has insurance, and that's not fair to that person runs into. I don't care. I'm from a small town, and we haul the vehicles off. We have to, because it's not fair for that person to drive down the street, run into somebody, hurt them, and y'all going to get sued. If I know that you gave that guy a ticket for no insurance and you let him go again, you can't do that. But the officer said, well, we have the option of deciding to let him go or not. And I don't think that's right. They're breaking the law. They're breaking a law that affects the people in front of them. Now, if he's speeding, something like that, that's a different thing. He knows to slow down. But when he affects the other people in front of him without having insurance, then y'all need to get involved with that and change that ruling. I'm sorry. It's just not fair to everybody else who really, and you're not helping that individual. Now he's got a ticket to pay for it, and now he ain't got no money for the insurance. I mean, it's a catch-22. It's bad for the person in front of him when they go down the street. Thank you all for listening.
Thank you.
Good evening, all. Mr. Mayor, council members, appreciate y'all and the work y'all do. And me, I'm from Aransas Pass, been here for a few years, 63. But in some of the comments I've heard, I'll say that all development isn't good development. And with that, I'm talking now about a case PZ 2024-07, which is to do with the Planning and Zoning Committee, and someone's applied for abandonment of alley. And this meeting has been canceled like 3 or 4 times through the Planning and Zoning Committee, and I've came up every single time to try and get my voice in. And I guess it gets put in on one Monday, and then it gets referred to the council the next Monday, and this is the next Monday for that. So the meeting wasn't held this past Monday. So I just came up because I don't know, I travel, I go see my grandkids a lot, and I don't want to be out of town when something like this comes up. So I don't know if this is something that's being considered or you guys hadn't got yet or not, but I wanted to voice my opinion on it, which is not a favorable opinion, because again, like I say, this is on 35, leaving Aransas, going to Rockport. This is the last light to make a right to go to the harbor. Before someone came up and tried to ask for easement for that property where the hotel used to be, so they could build these little yellow, green, red houses and put them everywhere, and that never happened. So now they're asking to take part of the alleyway to use for their trailer park or whatever, and cut it off like behind my house. So that's something that I don't know if you guys are aware of it, but if it comes up, I'd like to be a part of it, and I don't know how to, if the meeting never happens, I don't know when that's going to happen with the Planning and Zoning Committee, that they're going to take it in consideration or not take it in consideration. But yeah, I don't know where to go after that, but that's all I have.
Well, no, Brenda's not P&Z.
Oh, yeah. Well,
You are P&Z? You are,
Yeah.
okay, that's your department?
yeah.
Okay.
Andy Davila, Aransas Pass, Texas. I wasn't going to come up here and say anything. I was just coming to be nosy, just see what's going on tonight. But that man that sat there and came up here and talked about wanting to develop a business up there on the harbor, it sounded like you've known about it for 2 years. And I don't understand what's going on with that. I mean, I'm a citizen, right? And all I've ever wanted is the best for Aransas Pass. The best for Aransas Pass. And it's not always been that, but it's not that way everywhere you go. But everybody in Aransas Pass wants something done to that harbor. And if there's a way that it could have been done 2 years later, or at least these people known about it, maybe to me it looked like they didn't know what was going on, the way they reacted. And he was here before and he talked about it on a previous meeting, and it was like he was talking in Chinese because nobody paid attention, nobody cared before he was up here, Randy. If you're gonna represent Aransas Pass and work for Aransas Pass, regardless of what you do, in my opinion, you should care about Aransas Pass. If there's something that can be done, you said something about a meeting. I hope you have that meeting where you can come together, maybe something can happen, so something can start going on over there, and show that you care.
Or if you would like to stay after the meeting, I'll be glad to discuss all that I already know about his development and why it's still where it is.
You said certain things that made it sound to him that y'all didn't know here, because he kept saying over and over again, we can have a meeting, we can have a meeting, we can have a meeting. Now, if you know something about it, why didn't he know? 2 years later, he still don't know nothing. Well, then you say you knew. You say you knew about it.
Andy, I was informed about it about 2 weeks ago.
Mayor and council.
I know what he's doing.
Mayor and council, I want to just remind you all again that citizen communication is their opportunity to talk to you. It's not an opportunity for dialogue between council and the speakers. Thank you.
Yes, sir. I appreciate that too, sir. But they were answering that man that was up here and other people. Why not me?
That's what we can't
Answer
do
that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Mayor, City Council, good evening. I wanted to introduce myself as I am Clarissa Betancourt, a resident of Aransas Pass. The reason I am up here today is because I did apply for the city secretary position. I just wanted for you all to be able to put a name with a face for when my application does come up. I do appreciate y'all's time and attention. And again, my name is Clarissa Betancourt. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
This has been a special meeting compared to May. I'm really proud of what's going on here today. The last meeting was not your fault. It was not pretty. I'm glad to see the way the meeting is being run tonight. Thank you all for that.
Anybody else? Okay, we're gonna go into executive session. Section 5, executive session 14.1, Texas Government Code Section 5.1.074 to deliberate the appointment, employment, and duties of the city secretary. Section 551.071 of the Texas Open Meeting Act to meet with his attorney to seek legal advice on a matter in which the duty of the attorney to the city council under the Texas disciplinary rules of professional conduct of the state bar of Texas clearly conflicts with the Texas Open Meeting Act and section 551.087 deliberation regarding economic development negotiation relating to commercial contract with 630 Ransom Island Partners LLC for unimproved property with an addendum of special provision for Nueces CAD number 380310A 28.61 acres of land at Ransom Island, Tract 7, commonly known as 630 East Ransom Road, Aransas Pass, Texas. And it is 7:10.
Why is he